הסגן שלו.
לגרש את מי?
את כל מי שזורות אבנים למשפחות שלהם.
טוב, זה טוב.
לא שמעת אתמול?
אני לא שומע שטויות תמיד.
לא, אתם גם עסוקים עכשיו.
מה?
אתם עסוקים פה עכשיו.
אנחנו מה עושים?
עסוקים, busy with the inside politics.
أنا busy in sport.
ישמעאלי בניקוד עם ג'יל, מעצר מנהלי.
אוקיי, אפשר להתחיל?
אני רץ.
Sound is okay?
אתלטיקס. כאן מרץ,
אני אתחיל בדברים מאוד מאוד כלליים, כי אני רוצה לחתוך את זה לעוד אנשים. אז אתה רץ, אדם? אדם, אתה רץ? למשל, מה המושג נכבה אומר? אבל אוסלו הוא לא...
את רוצה לדבר בעברית או באנגלית?
אתה תענה באנגלית.
בסדר, תשאלי באנגלית, אוקיי.
So what is the meaning of נכבה for you? In a few words, what's the association, נכבה? What does it mean to the
For us it was a disaster. This was the starting of the Palestinian people suffering in exile, under occupation, racist, fascist occupation, whether it was inside Israel after 48, the Palestinians who were there were under a racist military government till maybe 65, about 17 years, as this was the starting of the suffering of the Palestinian people.
And what changed in the 60s that make the Palestinians more active about it? Because after, from the Nakba to the 60s,
The emergence of the Palestinian national movement, the emergence of Fatah, raising the flag of nationhood, political entity through the resistance, the struggle, I think created a new era and a new positive, active situation and environment.
and you've been 15 years old, first time that you've been arrested, and it was in the 60s, right? After 67.
After the Israeli occupation of the West Bank in 67, yeah, I was arrested in December 68. Yeah.
What made you to be politically aware? You've been young.
First of all, you know, I was brought up in a national family. Also, we were on the confrontation line. We were very close to the 67 borders with the Israelis. And a lot of the Palestinian refugees were living in my village as the awareness came through the engagement of those people, of the whole situation. But the fact is that I was arrested for nothing. A few Egyptian officers who escaped from Gaza after 67 war to Jordan, and they came, they passed through our village, and I gave them food and something like that, which I don't think it was a reason, a valid reason to arrest a kid who did nothing.
And what it made you feel?
You know, first of all, I faced a very tough treatment. I was tortured, humiliated, beaten for a few days before I was going in the jail. And inside the jail, the situation was unbelievable. The maltreatment, the living conditions. My feeling that the hatred of those ugly faces of the guards in jail was their feeling. Through hatred, they were treating us. Everything was unhuman, whether it's,
It's like you feel that you want to be very active. It's
no, listen, sure, the maltreatment, the living conditions inside the jail, the way that the Israelis were treating us, physical torture or beating didn't matter. The food, I think, was the worst. The whole day program is based on humiliation. I think for their own reasons, maybe this later on I concluded the Israelis could not send all those prisoners to gallows, as the objective substitute was the maltreatment and the living conditions. The reaction is that there is something that I have to do. As immediately after my release, I spent about 4 months plus with no reason to go and join. And this what happened. Immediately I joined Fatah.
you met someone in jail that you
Yes, I met a lot of people. Some of them were senior and active people like the late leader Abu Ali Shaheen. And from there, I started
It has been
my
very
process.
secretive at the time, right?
What?
It has been very secretive at the time, right?
Everything at that time, we were under occupation, curfews, was systematic policy, as everything was, confidential.
Okay. After you've been hunted by the Israelis, you become very active in Oslo, or before Oslo, when you become assistant of Abu Ammar. And you met these people that was hunting you for years. You've been 17 years in jail. You've been going through hell.
Listen, in jail, later on I was arrested 6 times, and I received once life sentence, spent 15 years, and I was released in prison for exchange in 20th of May 85, rearrested again, released, rearrested. In jail, the only thing is permitted is the time. As I myself try to use my time on the right way. Education, learning, studying.
You translated the Book of Begin.
I translated the revolt of Manah. Listen, I did believe, or one of my conclusions, that we have to know everything about the Israelis. Instead of hating them, we have to know them. For me, it became a philosophy. As I started to understand that this conflict is too complicated, too arduous, and there is no military solution.
When did you understand?
By reading it, this took a time. That the Israelis wanted to negate Palestine, to delete Palestine. They failed. We're still existing. We are in exile or inside Palestine. We are proud of being Palestinians. We are fighting, we are resisting, but at the same time, the conclusion that no way to delete a whole nation, no matter there is some kind of injustice against my people, and those Israelis are colonial state, and but at the end you have a reality, and we had to recognize realities on the ground. But at the same time, I started to understand that the resistance is not an end. It should be a mean. But what the ends are, political ends, national aspirations, which at that time mean to have my people his own political entity. Through this understanding, when Oslo came, I did not hesitate to support, because it started with two things. The first one, a mutual recognition between the Israeli government and the PLO, which means recognizing each other, recognizing the very existence of each other. Although at that time I had many things to say against Oslo.
Like what?
Okay, the issue of Jerusalem, the issue of the settlements, the issue of the prisoners, the issue of having a third party, not only a bilateral, but at the end it was a good starting. The second thing was changing the rules of the game. Instead of fighting, bloodshedding, killing each other, we found ourselves in a situation on equal foot with the late Prime Minister of Israel, Rabin, engaged in dialogue and discussion rather than fighting each other. I think though I was motivated by those two issues, the issue of mutual recognition, the issue of changing the rules of the game. For me, the second item is very important, because I suffered, and I know what does this mean, suffering. My family suffered. I know a lot of people from both sides who suffered, but I myself did not suffer for the sake of suffering, as if the other side is recognizing the very existence of my people. I think it's worth to change.
So it was a changing point, really dramatic.
Yeah. It was. For me, I told you, I was motivated to support, to follow up Yasser Arafat, because I did trust him. But my legacy also. I am a person who spent 17 years in Israeli jail, suffered a lot by the Israelis, and also my family suffered. But resistance for me was a mean. And it was clear to everybody, to those who were involved, that the solution should be a political one. I think it was a brave decision by both leaders to lead their people toward a reconciliation, which started once again by recognizing each other and by changing the rules of the game, moving from the battlefield to the table of negotiations and talks.
Can you tell us the small story about Rabin? Some interaction that we don't know?
Listen, I did know Rabin through the books, and almost I read everything about him since he was junior officer in Balmach and later on became commander of brigade, commander of Balmach. Then he was promoted till he became chief of staff and ambassador, then minister, I think, of labor, and in 74 he became prime minister. I even made an important analysis about him to the president. Maybe he was not the only one, and others, other Israeli commanders. And I did believe that this man is a man of principles. You know, he was the Minister of Defense when I was arrested in 85 and when I was deported. He signed the deportation with Amram Mitzna as recommendation. He was the Central Command chief at that time. But, you know, it's not a personal suffering or personal issue. I thought that according to my studies, including also his book or what was written about him, even by Shimon Peres, who criticized him a lot, you know, my conclusion that this man is a man of principles, and you could depend on his word. This was my my conclusion. The first time I met him with Yasser Arafat when we signed the Cairo agreement in May 94, or what we call the Jericho-Gaza agreement.
And how was it?
For me, you know, I am a fighter, I am a soldier. It was, you know, it was not easy to meet the enemies of yesterday, but also on my back was the cause of my people, the future of my people. It's not a personal issue, it's a national issue. And although it was not easy, but I had to understand and recognize realities and historic drastic changes.
Creating an instrument. Okay, I want to ask you two questions. You talk about the Palmach and Fatah. In a way, the way to recognize Palestine is really similar to the recognition of Israel. And also the UN vote in 2012 that recognized Palestine. How come you don't have a Palestine?
I'll tell you. First of all, the Jews in 40s last century know how to use the issue of the massacres, Hashua, against them. And they had the sympathy of the international community. And even superpowers felt that they have to do something for the Jews, to help them in order to make a compensation for them. Millions of Jews were burned, killed, atrocities were committed against them. As I think the international sympathy, because of the Holocaust, paved the road for the Jewish community in Palestine, who also had a well-organized military branch who could fight and dictate achievements on the ground. But for the Palestinians, we had two problems. The first problem is that the Arabs were divided and were very weak, and the Palestinians were not united behind a strong, effective leadership with a clear vision how to deal with such a global involvement in this situation. As instead of reacting through understanding the dimension of international involvement, they reacted from their stomach, and they failed. And here Fatah came, was born, and the emergence of Fatah as a national, secular, practical, pragmatist movement from the very first movement gave a strong momentum and power to the Palestinian national movement, and Fatah did remain representing the mainstream, united the Palestinians and even united the Arabs around them to recognize the PLO as sole legal representative of the Palestinian people.
That's also connected to Oslo, right?
Okay, excuse me, this paved the road to the UN, to the international recognition, and Oslo was the first step toward building the missing item of this conflict, which is partnership with the Israelis. Unfortunately, Rabin, who contributed more than any other Israeli leader to the state of Israel, was assassinated by a crazy fascist Israeli who was not, I don't think that it was an individual act. There was a huge part of the Israeli society don't ready to recognize the very existence of the Palestinian people and their right for self-determination. And once again, we were pushed to a vicious circle. Vicious circle, you control nothing.
This has happened after the meeting in Camp David with Barak?
No, I don't think that Barak was serious. Barak was on the right of Netanyahu rather than acting according to the legacy of Rabin.
He actually killed the Oslo because he said, you are not a partner anymore.
He was on the right of Netanyahu rather than acting according to the legacy of the late Rabin. Barak was not ready to make any progress on the ground, and I don't think that he had the guts like Rabin to lead the Israeli people, as he killed everything. And I think Barak acted according to the right wing, his agenda and the platform, rather than the Labour Party at that time, or Rabin is philosophy that the future of the state of Israel depend on having an independent, sovereign Palestinian state beside the state of Israel in normal bilateral relations with security guarantees and with international support and contribution to finish this process of historic reconciliation after tens of thousands of victims from both sides.
So what happened to the Palestinian society since then, to the young people in the Palestinian society?
After the assassination of Rabin, I think we had the hope that Yasser Arafat, with his charisma, with his political skills, could change. But also we had a clear-cut support by Clinton's administration. Clinton was clear that he will not let Bibi or the right wing burn everything, destroy everything, and undermine the whole process. But at the same time, there were prominent Israeli leaders and commanders at the time who tried to break, to contain, like Amnon Shahak, Am Ayalon at that time, and I think also Itzhak Mordechai. Tried to confront the crazy right wing, its tactics on the ground to destroy everything. I think all those, whether it's big or small, actors gave hope to the Palestinian political leadership, as long as Yasser Arafat was on the hill. I think Yasser Arafat also was a fundamental element in the whole issue of reconciliation. And Yasser Arafat, and I was very close to the man, did believe in two things. The first, that the Israelis have the right to live in their own country, which is 67 borders, with security, with normalization. And the Palestinians have the same right of self-determination. And the second,
Sorry.
and the second element, that the negotiations is the only way to make business for this too long, too arduous, too complicated conflict. I was beside Yasser Arafat when Rabin was assassinated. You know, my feeling as if he lost a brother or a close friend. And he did understand that Rabin paid the price of recognizing the Palestinian people's existence, and till the last moment, Yasser Arafat did remain committed and loyal to the legacy of Rabin, more than even the successor of Rabin in the Labour Party. I don't want to talk about those who led the incitement and the provocation against Rabin and against Oslo, like Bibi and all the and Sharon and others, all those who started the bullying against the whole system, which led us to the vicious circle.
And the escalation that we see now, then, is connected to the...
Listen, Netanyahu did not change. Netanyahu is the same Netanyahu. In 96, last century, and today. Netanyahu thinks now that the Palestinians are divided, the Arabs are in a difficult situation, and the international community is engaged in other and totally different agenda. And he is trying even to push the Israelis toward the existential threat, Iran, which is a big lie. He is trying to use this situation to dictate facts on the ground. Dictating facts means expanding existing settlements and even building new ones based on undermining the possibility of having a Palestinian viable state, making drastic demographic, geographic changes in Jerusalem, including the issue of Al-Aqsa, by violating the status quo which is existing since 67, and at the same time suffocating the Palestinians on the ground by, the killing of the Palestinians. It's a matter. Kids, innocent people, this is the minimum, the issue of the jail. But it's go to the list of the Palestinian victims during the last few months. It's a weekly matter, the humiliation, killing here in Kalandia, in Jenin, in Gaza, everywhere.
So do you think we are going to a new intifada, or actually since the last
Excuse
summer?
me, I think if you think that intifada is to lead the Palestinians to some kind of bloodshedding, I don't think that this is the strategy. But spontaneous reactions, individuals or groups, this will happen here and there. But on the ground, the whole system is dealing with the Israeli occupation as a racist, fascist enemy, which is the coexistence with them is not existing. It means that all the options are open. The Israelis should not build their strategy of any choice that the Palestinians are frustrated, are not able to react, but we think that keeping bloodshedding far from the agenda means convincing most of the Israelis, 70% of the Israelis believe in the two-state solution. We have to strengthen, to consolidate. I think plus minus the same. To consolidate the peace camp in Israel through behaving as a responsible authority and also increasing the dialogue with the peace camp in Israel, and at the same time make engagement with the international community. With the Israelis, we have to be clear that the real threat for the future, for the very existence of the state of Israel, is this racist, fascist occupation and settlement on the Palestinian territory, with the international community, that the unilateral, racist, fascist Israeli occupation, aggressions, war against Palestinians and against Arabs is a real threat for regional stability and peace, and also for global peace.
What is the part of your sport association?
Listen,
with
for me,
international recognition?
for me, I am trying to build a well-organized, effective organization based on the ethics, the values of the game, according to the statutes of FIFA and Olympic Charter. And I think promoting values and ethics of the game among the young generation is a great contribution to have a new generation believe in tolerance, democracy.
Achievement.
You know, the end is the achievement. The achievement is to have this, but I am talking here about the individuals, the people, and exposing the cause, the suffering of the Palestinian athletes, officials, by this racist occupation, exposing this cause through the game, I think is a great achievement. Convincing the international community to judge the Palestinian people through sport eyes is a great achievement. I think what happened in FIFA last May, it was a historic achievement. Almost there was consensus in FIFA for three things. The first one is criticizing the Israelis, criticizing the Israelis. All the 6 contents in FIFA supported the criticism against the Israeli irrational, racist policy toward the Palestinian football family. Second, recognizing the Palestinian football family's right to develop the game, to practice the game, and this should happen under the protection of the FIFA umbrella. You could not imagine the way and even the situation that the Israelis pushed themselves in. They were cornered, and at the end, the whole family of FIFA said to me, General, suspend the suspension proposal. We want to investigate and let us test them and give them the last chance. I said, you know, I came here to eat the grapes. I don't want also to see suffering, even to the Israeli athletes, the suffering of the Palestinian athletes. I don't wish it to anyone, even to those Israelis. As let us try. Now we have a committee chaired by a man who was inspired by Nelson Mandela. Even he is one of his disciples, and his name is Tokyo Sexuali, from South Africa, spent 15, 17 years in jail with Nelson Mandela, in the same jail, the same cell. Now he's chairing a committee. The committee has to report to the Congress, and we will start at the beginning of October the meetings and to discuss and decide about 3 issues. First, free movement for the Palestinian athletes, officials, and to enable us to receive the sport equipment, to build facilities on the ground, to have one league in Palestine, Gaza and the West Bank. And the second issue is to investigate the racism. What happened in Brussels, by Peter Yerushalayim, what's going on? The racial discrimination.
It was genius move. I admired you for what you did in FIFA. And
The third issue is the issue of territory. This committee should go to the UN and ask, because the Israelis organizing a league settlement in the occupied territories, which is illegal, which is against FIFA statutes, and this committee is authorized by the Congress of FIFA to check with UN, with EU, with any other relevant organization, which I think is a Palestinian territory.
So the battle now is on the international awareness of the Palestinian
You know,
situation.
the whole history of our conflict was about the awareness of everybody, and also about the story and about the mean that we present the case. But here we changed, we recharged, and we decided that the mean should be a non-violence one, a peaceful mean rather than violence and bloodshedding.
To hear it from a fighter, it's really...
And you know, our story is legitimate. Our story is recognized as a legitimate story.
What is the main obstacle to actually get the result of the negotiation with the Israelis and get the...
No way,
cultural-
no way, unless the Israeli government come up with a resolution that they want to lead their country to reconciliation with the Palestinians and the Arabs by recognizing the very existence of the Palestinian people, their right in self-determination, and dealing with us as a partner to build the future of our both peoples. But Netanyahu is not the man. He's not the right horse to lead your people, and I think he's a real threat. Israel is isolated. Israel is in the corner. Even a lot of yesterday's allies are fed up. It's the time for the Israelis to recharge their mental batteries, reconsider their policies, recognize the realities on the ground. 6 million Palestinians on historic Palestine. Still, 25% of them are part of Israel and Israelis, and there could be a bridge, and 75% are living in Gaza, East Jerusalem, and Palestine, and capable and have the right to build their own independent, sovereign state beside the state of Israel. And I think those Palestinians, Israeli Palestinians, could be a bridge, a positive, productive bridge. But the ball is in the court of the Israeli society to decide what do they want. Do they want official recognition? Do they want security arrangements forever? Do they want normalization with the Palestinians and the Arabs, or they want to remain part of a colonial, expansionist political regime led by a crazy, bullying mafia, which I think is a real threat for the very existence of your country, for the regional security, stability. No one is supporting this crazy, racist, fascist. The Israelis should not use the same means that once were used against them. The Israelis should conclude the right conclusion by what happened for Tawabshi family, for Abu Khdeir. It's the time. The sooner is the better. Saving blood suffering from both sides. It's
And
up,
if the
it's
Israelis-
up to the Israelis.
And if the Israelis will not do that, because we have Bibi, what will be the
Okay,
next step
this
of
is,
Yonah?
this is the problem of the Israelis. We, the Palestinians, we have nothing to lose. Nothing. Nothing. Occupation, racism, humiliation, suffocation. It's not easy to use it, but most of us are comparing you to the Nazism. We,
sorry to say that
yeah,
I-
I am sorry even to say it. I know that it's
No, I'm sorry
it's-
that I
it's-
agree with you.
yeah. As you know, we have nothing. We have nothing. I call on the Israelis to come and see Baruch Marzel and all those police, how they are behaving.
But this thing happening now in Al-Aqsa, they try to do it religious.
Okay, I think this is not my problem. This should be the problem and the concern of the Israelis. Religious war, mean, ending, ending everything. The Jews, 12, 13, 14 millions all over the world, they have no right to decide, either for Christians or Muslims, when and how to pray in East Jerusalem. The dimension of what's going on in Al-Aqsa is very, very dangerous for the future of your state. Go to the statement by King Abdullah, who's rational, realistic, also to the Egyptian position. No one. The Israelis should not wait for a white flag coming by any Palestinian leader. Also, a lot say that we should not suffer alone. I hope that the Israelis go to the streets instead of talking about cottage, to talk about occupation, racism, settlements. This is the real threat for the very existence of the state of Israel and the future of your sons and the
But
grandsons.
that's why they don't want the Israeli public to hear you, for example.
What?
That's why the media and they don't let the public in Israel to hear you. It's very agendic, it's very they don't give the truth. You know, they give agenda.
Excuse me, it's a matter of time.
That no, the truth will come to their face, but they don't know anything of it.
It's a matter of time. When every citizen start to feel that he is suffering, that he is punished, he is isolated, he cannot travel, even the economic situation is deteriorating, they will change the cassette. The sooner is the better. Let us look forward. From our side, white flag will not come, and the Israelis have to understand that their future depends on having an independent, sovereign, viable Palestinian state according to the international legitimacy, according to the international resolution. In 47 last century, 2 birth certificates were issued for 2 states. I think once we will go to the UN and ask, either you dictate or you reconsider and cancel the other birth certificate. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. خلاص, finito.
Yeah, I think it's very, very strong. And for that, do you know מוטי מורל?
מין?
מוטי מורל? הוא עושה את האסטרטגיה של הבחירות בישראל.
אני לא פגשתי אותו, אני...
הוא רוצה לפגוש אותך.
בסדר, אני מצטער, אני צריך
שאני אדבר עם מחסן?
תדברי עם...
בדיוק על המשפט האחרון שאמרתי. אז למי לדבר עם מחסן?
תדברי עם מחסן, היה עندك فندق.
תודה רבה רבה.